What up, fam? Welcome back to another episode of Reading Between the Headlines. I'm Asaf Nisim. Little Broken Picard is here. Let's do the thing. Headline number 1. I'm very happy here. Take from that what you want. The awkward moment Leicester boss Brendan Rodgers refuses to nip Arsenal talk in the bud and deny interest in Gunnar's hot seat. And the speculation continues, with the newest gossip being that the Broj may be interested in the Arsenal vacancy. I'm sure you all know by now that Unai Emery has finally been sacked after weeks of spiraling downward. They sort of started decently given their place on the table, but another draw at home against a really poor Southampton must have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Not sure what the reality on the ground was, but to outsiders looking in, it was beyond results at that point. The environment at the club just seemed toxic beyond all salvaging. I feel bad for Unai because I sincerely believe he is a quality manager who seems like a very sweet man. Maybe that's just the cute way he never gives up the chance to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon.
At pressers or in an interview, but he seems genuine. As for the vacancy now left in his wake, it's amazing how quickly the rumor hawks emerge from their caves buried deep within the anuses of every sports writer on the scene. It's a calm, peaceful environment that only erupts when the shit hits the fan, when the last drip of coffee graces the tongue of a manager awaiting the sack, when a major but prudent reaming is just around the corner for a healthy yet middle-aged man, and the colon prep kit arrives at last. These little buck goblins thrive in the poopiest of circumstances. And poopy they are indeed at Arsenal. But Brendan Rodgers is not taking the bait here. Here's a little of him staying strong when pressed on the rumors linking him with a move to the Emirates.
I repeat, I'm happy here, very happy, and have great relations with all the people, and I feel that I want to continue with that. I have a contract here till 2022, and thus far, and I know managers are losing their jobs, but the club haven't indicated to me that they're going to sack me. I think they're pretty happy with how we're working, and like I said, I'm very happy. So I have no need to look elsewhere, and I think logic would tell you. And I know that sometimes in your world it's not always logical, there's gossip and speculation. But why would I want to leave Leicester City? I gave an honest answer, which was based around probably most managers have something in the contract. And by all accounts, that opened the door for something. I just think it's the nature of it. I think everything has to be in the now. And you know probably as a manager, and you can anticipate it, that if you lose a number of games, the pressure will come onto you, and in this job it shifts around, different managers at different times. So we all understand the climate that we're in. I think in the modern game it's very difficult to plan longer term. I think as the manager and the coach coming into clubs, it's very much you do essentially what it is you need to do initially. You've got to get your first team right.
We've been through this rigmarole in the past with journalists pressing players, managers, etc. on their future or the future of others around them. It's that annoying tete-a-tete that very rarely actually reveals anything about the situation. Why don't they just be honest about what's going on, about what their thoughts are, about the reality end the speculation and just come out with it? Well, maybe because they'd like to avoid moments like these.
Jose, 4 years ago when you were at Chelsea, you were asked if you would ever come to Spurs and you said, never. I love the Chelsea fans too much. What's changed?
Yeah, before I was sacked.
The article goes on stoking the flames of the dramatic narrative by citing comments by former Sky Sports pundit Richard Keys regarding Brendan Rodgers and Arsenal. He said he'd take the job in a heartbeat, and now if he had to. And he'd be right as well. I've mentioned my taxi ride with him before. He was with us here at BeIN Sports after losing his job at Liverpool. I won't go into detail, but during the journey back to his hotel, he left me with absolutely no doubt that Arsenal's was the job he coveted. But he had to be careful how he got there. Well, that's all well and good, Richard Keys. But you're legit citing a conversation you had with Rodgers after he was sacked at Liverpool, what, 5-ish years ago? Things have changed just a wee bit since then. Arsenal, for one, haven't been in the Champions League for, 3 seasons? I don't need to tell you how many league titles they've won in the last 15 years or so. Leicester have been on an upward trajectory, whereas Arsenal have been on a clear downward one. And now they don't even have the famous stability we saw when Wenger was around. So when Brendan Rodgers says, why would I want to leave Leicester right now? You kind of have to sympathize with him. There really is no good reason for him to leave Leicester for Arsenal. Not now. I know Arsenal are a massive club with a bigger brand and a greater level of support, but the pressure will increase for one. The room for error diminished, and when it comes down to it, Leicester are in a much better moment than the Gunners. That's not to say Arsenal won't emerge from this fiasco on the up and up, and we've seen just how quickly a bleak situation like this can turn. At Chelsea, for instance, they had a transfer ban, they lost their manager, they lost arguably their best player in Eden Hazard, and look at them now. From the ashes, arises the phoenix. Arsenal are a bunch of ashy sons of bitches right now, and I'm not sure Brendan Rodgers wants to get his boots dirty. Headline number 2, Vertonghen. Players responsible for Pochettino sacking as Spurs standards slipped. Call the presses! Players are actually taking responsibility for something. Whether it be the referee, the manager, teammates, or opponents cheating, underperforming players are often never short on excuses when it comes to their form. Yeah, we see them put on a political hat from time to time in interviews, but it's not always the case. It was just last week that Dele Alli was somewhat playing down the onus being on the players. He said, well, you can't help but feel a bit to blame because we were out there. Oh, is that right? A bit to blame? You can't help but feel slightly guilty for your world-class manager getting the sack? You think it's a bit your fault? A bit your teammates' fault? All of you guys on the pitch, not getting results, underperforming, you're slightly guilty. Everyone else, they're the culprits. They're the ones. Get them. Yeah. Well, not all players are created equal, and Jan Vertonghen this time was not splitting hairs here. He said, our displays under Pochettino were not up to our standards. We're all responsible. He put us on the pitch to win, and we haven't been doing that like we should. That said, I will say this, and fans might not like it, but I think they'll understand where I'm coming from. However shocked we all are, however stupid and downright disgraceful the decision to sack someone who's allegedly turned down so much to stay on and see the project through, when you see who they brought in, it makes sense. I'm sorry, but like I've said, they haven't won anything. They haven't won a single trophy under Pochettino. Now, I'm not attributing that all to Pochettino. It's just observably factual. Maybe being perennial runners-up, getting so close, achieving so much without scooping silver has contributed to the belief in the locker room, has fostered the rot that gives you an unhappy, underperforming Christian Eriksen or whomever. Now, what we do know is that they brought in the one manager who you tend to think ain't leaving any club, however desperate the situation. United. United. Sorry. Apologies. The one manager who you tend to feel ain't leaving any club without silverware. So, end of the day, I'm not a proponent of the sacking. I'm just saying that it makes sense. Tottenham has gotten everything in recent years except a trophy. When you talk about great managers, there are so many, of course, but one of my own favorites has to be Pep. You probably know this if you watch this show. He takes incredible players and makes them even better. He makes a cohesive team that plays the most gorgeous football conceivable. Tottenham have made a logical conclusion and decided that they're not getting a Pep Guardiola. They're getting the special one. We'll see if they continue this recent start of great form when the new manager smell wears off, as it does eventually. I believe that with Mourinho in charge, other clubs at the top should probably be concerned. Before we get to headline number 3, I'd like to remind you all to please like, comment, share, subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. If not, you ever hear of a little bitty film called Passion of the Christ? Just leave it there. Back to the show. Headline number 3. Villa vs. Manchester United, man of the match, Jack Grealish. If you looked over the stats of the fixture at Old Trafford this weekend, you'd be seeing serious domination. United with 62.3% of the possession, 452 accurate passes to Villa's measly 221, 16 shots to Villa's 9. Of course, the scoreline might challenge your perception given that the match ended a 2-2 draw. And still, you would not quite know the story of this matchup. One thing I could tell you is that Villa looked sharp. Jack Grealish looked like a frickin' ballerina dancing around the United midfield and defense as if they were a bunch of flat-footed Broadway retirees upstaged by a young hopeful from the local community theater. It's no wonder that he's the talk of Manchester. The rumors abound regarding United's serious interest in Super Jackie Grealish. Liam Bryan writes, a maestro in the midfield, an artful attacker, Grealish was simply superb. For 90 minutes, he was a constant nuisance to Man United's backline, and he controlled the speed of the game at his own pace. On the ball, he floats like a butterfly as he continually bamboozles defenses with his skill and stings like a bee as he possesses a clinical edge which is finally blossoming in front of our own very eyes. There's certainly a lot of promise in Grealish, and it feels like that's been the going phraseology among the media for some time now, even when they were down in the championship. The next Jack Wilshere, but better and less injury prone. To me, he actually looks more like Adam Lallana on the ball. Grace and balance, as good as anyone's, but really starting to become more clinical in front of goal. Certainly sharper than Lallana has looked in that regard, when he's on the pitch anyway. Unfortunately for Villa fans, and yes, that means you, Tom Hanks, life is not always like a box of chocolates. Sometimes you get that one great artisanal chocolate, and as you're coming out of the chocolate shop, someone who looks shockingly akin to Joey Barton pops out of the bushes and slams you over the head with a tire iron, leaving you to die slowly in the car park as he enjoys the fruits of your labor and wins the lottery with whatever change you had in your pocket. I've seen it a million times, folks. There's no telling when the next massive club will come knocking on little Jackie Grealish's chocolate shop door. And they ain't looking for chocolate tree bark either. That does it for this week's episode of Reading Between the Headlines. Thank you so very much for hanging out with me. Stick around to watch a few more of my favorite goals from the Prem this week. Another reminder to please like, comment, share, subscribe to this channel, and as per usual, from myself and from little tiny broken Picard, just look at him. He's so tiny, so broken. We hope that you live football and prosper.